So we've got an aquarium here which has been running for about a year and recently has developed a bit of an algae problem. So if you look quite carefully, there's a nice layer of algae right across the whole tank. So there's a whole range of things that we're going to do to combat that, including getting more algae eating fish, because there's not really any right now. So tangs, blennies, rabbitfish, all those sorts of guys, they're going to enjoy eating the algae. But basically what happens in these sorts of aquariums, especially ones like this which are actually run on a canister filter, is over a period of time organics or nutrients build up in the aquarium. They'll build up in the filter, especially if the filter hasn't been cleaned regularly enough, which in this case it's quite possible. Also, the way that this tank's been gravel cleaned could also contribute to this issue. So this is very fine sand, and this tank has had one 20-litre bucket of water changed here and there on it, but the gravel cleaning has not been overly effective. When you've got this sort of fine sand, it's important not to just have the gravel cleaner running flat out, or it'll just suck all the sand up. What you need to do is pinch the top of the hose on the gravel cleaner to slow the flow down in the gravel cleaner. So when you've got the gravel cleaner column, the sand needs to be able to freely float around inside the gravel cleaner, and the sand needs to be able to fall back down, allowing the waste in the sand to come up and come out of the aquarium. Because when you're doing a water change, you're really trying to remove all of the sediment and so forth out of the gravel. You're not trying to take the clean water off the top. So in this case, that really hasn't been happening. So we did stir the sand up a little bit and did find a lot of sediment in the sand, as we'd expect. So doing more regular water changes for now to flush out the sediment in the sand is going to be a good idea. We're also using this product here we've recently started using to start sucking the phosphate out of the water. So you basically use that one and then you regenerate it using this one, and that will be a process, because over time the phosphate actually seeps into the rock, and then over time the phosphate is going to seep out of the rock. So when you do start using these products, even though you might return a 0 phosphate level, you're still not going to kill off your algae, because the algae is going to feed off the phosphates which are going to leach out of the rock, also out of the sand and also out of the filter, and very much out of the algae that dies off. So as the algae dies off, it's going to release phosphate, and that's going to feed the other algae which is in the tank. So it'll be a period of time until this algae is going to die off, because we need to starve it, and that isn't going to happen quickly. So the algae is definitely not going to want to die, and it'll fight. But in the long run, this sort of situation takes time to create, and it takes time to get rid of. So just by constantly flushing and cleaning the sediment out of the sand, cleaning the filter more regularly, and using media such as your phosphate removers, over time this algae will die off, in coordination with fish which are going to help eat the algae. And then the other thing that we did find in this aquarium too is it's getting fed quite large pellets, and seeing these plankton feeding fish at the top here like the chromis, I saw them feeding on it and spitting it out, feeding on it and spitting out. So they were trying very much to eat it, but the size of the food pellet may be a little bit large. And then this little hawkfish down here was cleaning them all up. So it's important to feed the foods that the fish can actually feed on. So most smaller fish go for a 1 mil pellet. Big fish with big mouths, they can start feeding on 3 mil pellets. The starfish are doing very well. They've been very long-term residents here. And the other thing he's doing too is turning off these air stones and replacing it for an extra power head, and that'll take these micro bubbles out of the water, because I'd find them a bit frustrating. Anyway, we'll check on this tank next time, and hopefully then it'll look spectacular, as it deserves to.